Ambassador Kethvar's 3 hearts pounded in sequence as she watched the evacuation shuttles launch from her homeworld's surface. The Zephyrian colonies that had taken millennia to build were being abandoned in mere hours. Behind her, the holographic display showed the inexorable advance of the Void Swarm, a plague of nanomechanical constructs that consumed all organic matter in their path. "The Galactic Council has voted," announced the towering crystalline delegate, its voice reverberating through harmonic frequencies. "Zephyria Prime is lost. All resources must be redirected to fortifying the core worlds." 30 billion souls, Kethvar whispered, her feathered crest flattening in despair. "You would sacrifice 30 billion Zephyrians to buy yourselves time." The aquatic representative's tentacles writhed in what passed for a shrug among her species. "The mathematics are clear. The swarm consumes faster than we can evacuate. Better to lose one system than risk the spread to inhabited sectors." One by one, the great races of the galaxy had spoken. The ancient ethereals, masters of energy manipulation, declared the defense statistically unfeasible. The militant Saurian Empire, whose warriors had never known defeat, calculated the odds and withdrew their fleets. Even the hive minds, with their billions of interconnected drones, concluded that Zephyria was an acceptable loss. As the council session ended, Kethvar slumped in her floating chair, watching the real-time feeds of her world's death. Cities that had stood for 10,000 years were being devoured by the silver tide. Her people, artists, philosophers, scientists, who had contributed so much to galactic civilization, were dying as their own allies fled. "Ambassador Kethvar?" She turned to see a small figure approaching. Human, by the look of it bipedal, no visible cybernetic enhancements, wearing the simple blue uniform of the Terran Federation. They were one of the newest species in the Council, barely 500 years since first contact. "Admiral Sarah Chen, Terran Defense Fleet," the human said, extending her hand in their peculiar greeting ritual. "I'm sorry about the Council's decision." Kethvar's translator struggled with the human's emotional inflections. "Your species was wise to abstain from the vote. There is no point in dying for a lost cause." Admiral Chen's expression hardened. "Actually, that's what I wanted to discuss. We didn't abstain because we agreed with them. We abstained because we were already mobilizing our fleet." "I don't understand." "The Terran Federation has voted to defend Zephyria Prime. Our entire battle fleet is en route. ETA 18 hours. Kethvar's feathers bristled in shock. "But the mathematics, the projections, your species has only been spacefaring for 5 centuries. The swarm has consumed civilizations that had mastered the stars for millennia." Chen smiled, and Kethvar was startled to see not resignation in the human's eyes, but determination. "Math didn't factor into our decision, Ambassador. We have a saying, not on our watch. It means that as long as we're here, as long as we can fight, we won't let innocents die, no matter the odds." "But why? What do you gain from this futile gesture?" The Admiral was quiet for a moment, studying the displays showing Zephyria's dying cities. "My grandmother lived through the Shanghai evacuation of 2387. The Tharkan raiders were burning through human colonies, and the older Earth governments wanted to abandon the outer settlements. But a small group of volunteer ships, miners, traders, even pleasure craft, formed a defensive line. They held for 3 days against impossible odds. Most didn't survive." Chen turned back to Kethvar. "Those volunteers bought enough time for the evacuation fleets to save 40 million people. My grandmother was one of them. She used to tell me, the measure of a civilization isn't how well it protects its own. It's whether it will stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves." Kethvar's 3 hearts began beating in unison, a sign of profound emotional response among her people. "Admiral, your entire species could be wiped out. The swarm will adapt to your weapons, learn from your tactics. Maybe. But we've been studying the swarm since the first reports came in. Our A's have run 10 million battle simulations. We've developed new quantum disruptor technology, specifically designed to counter their adaptive programming. And we've got something the other races seem to have forgotten, which is spite. Chen grinned fiercely. We're not just fighting to save Zephyria. We're fighting to prove that the Council was wrong. That some things are worth dying for. That the measure of a species isn't its age or its technology. It's its willingness to do what's right when everyone else walks away. 18 hours later, Kethvar stood on the bridge of the human flagship Indomitable, watching in awe as 300 Terran vessels dropped out of hyperspace around her dying world. They were outnumbered 1,000 to 1, facing an enemy that had devoured civilizations far more advanced than humanity. But as the first waves of quantum disruptors tore through the swarm's formations, as human pilots screamed defiance over open channels while ramming their fighters into swarm clusters, as the impossible happened and the silver tide actually began to retreat, Kethvar understood something profound. The galaxy had been wrong about humanity. They weren't just another young species destined to learn harsh lessons about cosmic realities. They were something far more dangerous and far more precious. They were hope made manifest. Not on our time, Admiral Chen said quietly, as swarm constructs exploded in brilliant cascades across Zephyria's sky. Not today. Not ever. And for the first time in months, Kethvar allowed herself to believe that her people might actually have a tomorrow. The measure of humanity, she realized, wasn't that they had saved Zephyria Prime. It was that they had never considered not trying.